up, by heck, what have I done? Hey, basically, after quite a bit of soul searching, I've taken the decision it's time to part with the Harley. A bike I've always wanted. Most of my motorcycling life, I always hankered after owning a Harley. And to be honest, I really have enjoyed the bike, really like the bike. But it's come to the point where I'm feeling it's time to move on. So I'll give you a quick walk round and I'll go into some of the whys and wherefores. I'll talk about some of the things I really like about the bike, but I'll also talk about some of the things that maybe have led to the decision that I've made or helped me make the decision. So the things I probably don't like about the bike. And I'll do a big reveal on what's going to replace it. But yeah, for now, unfortunately, we're going to be parting ways. So I'm just giving it a final polish. I've put it all back to as it was when I bought it. It's not quite standard, but as standard as I can get it. Obviously, anybody that's followed my videos will have seen some of the modifications I've done to it over the last few years. And yeah, it improved the beast, but it didn't quite make it what I needed it to be. As I say, I'm going to go into that as we walk round and as probably as I close and do a summary of the bike. So I just thought I'd do a quick, if you like, review of the ownership of the Harley, what I've liked, and share it with you. So yeah, let me get the camera. We'll have a walk round and I'll show you. Yeah, it's back to standard, and we'll talk about some of the things that I did and now I've undone. Well, here you have it. Back to more or less as I got it. Original tank, original seat back on, and I've even put the original air cleaner back on. If you watch one of my original early videos, I fitted the Vance & Hines air cleaner element kit. I was having problems with fueling. I kept getting a fault code saying it was running too lean, and I thought it was to do with it not having a Vance & Hines air filter, which it needed to match up with the Vance & Hines exhaust. So I fitted the Vance & Hines kit, still kept getting the fault code. It turned out one of my early problems with the bike, it was the lambda sensor in the exhaust pipe for the front cylinder, I think, was sucking air, so giving false readings. So I probably didn't need to change the air filter, but at the time I left it as it was. I actually preferred the look of the Vance & Hines filter. So, but yeah, that's back to standard, all put back on. Retrofitting everything was easy, to be fair. Putting the original fuel tank back on. Again, one of my last videos was me fitting the 4-gallon fuel tank with the idea of doing longer journeys on the bike. So this fuel tank, I think it holds 2.7 imperial gallons, and it's good for about 120, maybe 130 miles. But you start getting a bit twitchy once you come up to about 100. The bike does about 45 miles to a gallon, I've found. Original seat, again, really like the look of the original seat. It's not the comfiest for longer periods because you start to feel the edge here. You can feel that especially your inner thighs are up against the frame. So I'd fitted a solo seat, but one of the main reasons for fitting the solo seat was not just the comfort. I had a little rack on the back. One of the things I wanted to do with the bike, my idea was to do more distance on it. So I'd fitted a rack. I always struggled trying to find any way of fitting luggage to the bike. This was one of my issues, just soft panniers that I could put on take off. But because of how far the pipe kicks up, I fitted one of the Harley pannier rails that you can get here. But whatever luggage I tried to fit was always sitting on this side on top of the exhaust. The other side, I don't know if we can see that, just go for a quick look round. The other side down here, it's got the side mount side mount number plate, which again makes it difficult to put any luggage on this side. Trying to use the bike as I originally intended for doing any sort of touring, it was going to be a little bit more difficult. I was going to do more work to the bike than really I wanted to. So yeah, that didn't happen. One of the other things that I did in one of my videos was I think I modified the bars originally with 2-inch risers, because the original bars sit quite low. Just show you. Yeah, these original bars, they do sit quite low when you sat on the bike, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So I put 2-inch risers on, which helped, but then when I put the 4-gallon fuel tank on, the original bars fouled the tank with the 2-inch risers. So I managed to get hold of some bars off another model Sportster that were compatible with the 4-gallon tank, and also gave a little bit of I think they gave a 2-inch rise on the bend at this end, at the ends of the bars, so they were fairly comfortable. But one of the bike's great. The problem is it's a bike that it's not quite sure what it's trying to be. You know, it's got the low bars, it's got the aggressive stance, mid-mounted pegs, which are all right, but combined with the bars, and this is one of the issues I had, combined with the bars means that you sat in quite an awkward position after a period. So yeah, you could be sat in quite an awkward position if you were doing any length of time, and I was having problems with my lower back and my shoulders at anything over 50 miles. So another reason for modifying the handlebars, etc. Because if I'm being honest, the bike is a mile muncher. You know, I mean, there's this idea that if you're wanting a Harley to do distance on, you need one of the bigger engined models. Here in the UK, you don't. This bike, it's in its sweet spot as far as the engine goes, as far as it running smoothly. On a motorway, somewhere between 70 and 80 mile an hour indicated. So, and it'll cruise all day at that. So with the small tank and the awkward riding position, you're not able to take advantage of that. Yeah, it's great if you're just blatting around. Handles actually a lot better than I expected it to. But again, and this is coming round to one of the reasons why I've decided it's time to move on. Most of the riding I do where I live is back twisty A roads, B roads, into Derbyshire, up into West Yorkshire. We don't do long distances, but we tend to do the twisty scenic routes. And when you've done that on this bike, the roads, on the twisty roads, you start to feel the weight. As much as it does handle, it's harder to throw it through some of the bends, and when you're braking, you feel the weight when you're braking, etc. And you end up coming back probably more tired than you need to be. I've got a Ducati Scrambler, which is sublime on those sort of roads. So I want something that sort of falls between the Ducati Scrambler and this, and I'll do a review of the new bike when I finally pick it up, that can do a bit of everything. Something that'll do a little bit of a distance if we decide to go to the coast or whatever, and something that'll go scratching as well if I want it to. So, okay. So, as much as I've liked the bike, and it surprised me in many areas, the performance, the acceleration, the engine, it's really, really torquey, although what I have found is it likes to be spun. Not revved out, but it doesn't like to labour, it likes to be spun. You know, there's this myth about Harleys being big V-twins, lugging along, chugging away. No, use the gears and it'll reward you. It's got a surprising amount of acceleration. So yeah, I love the engine, love the bike. But yeah, I'll show you some of the downsides and really, yeah, explain to you why I'm sort of, it's time to move on, I think. Okay. So already I've talked about the relationship between the pegs and the handlebars and the position that puts you into when you sat on the bike. One of the annoying things is how far out. And if you look at that, this foot peg here, if you have your foot on it, you're nowhere near the brake. Why it needs to be coming out that far, I don't know. Somebody from Harley explained to me. And it's the same on the other side, but it's not as noticeable on the gear change side. One of the other irritating parts about the bike, when you're riding it, these rear pillion pegs, they just won't stay up. You know, they flop down the first time you get to a junction. You put your foot down and you can feel these in the back of your leg. Why Harley have not come up with a way? I mean, the Japanese manage it, Italians manage it, the British manage it. Why can't Harley manage it? Frustrating little things, but they do tend to start to irritate. Okay, one of the really annoying aspects of the bike, the speedo. Okay, it's fairly flat in relationship to the riding position, so best will in the world, you're struggling to see it. Well, maybe a taller rider will see it fairly easy, but me as a shorter rider, I'm struggling to see it. There's a really nice display for the revs. I'll just switch it on. There you go. Your speedo's down here. Okay, that's how fast you're going. In bright sunshine, these LEDs, these down here, you can't see them. So unless it's a dull day or it's dark, you're struggling to read what these numbers are anyway. But also, go for a ride, anything more than probably 5 or 6 miles, and this all starts to steam up. You get condensation inside there. I mean, the bike's dry stored, hardly ever been ridden in the wet, but inside there is always condensation. And on longer rides, what you will find, the condensation obscures the lower half of the speedo. So even if you could see it, you wouldn't be able to read what it's saying. And if I'm being honest, recently got a speeding ticket. My fault, I should have known better. I knew there's usually a police camera at that location. But as we came to the location, I glanced down and genuinely thought I was doing 58 miles an hour. According to the police summons, I was doing 68 miles an hour. And all I could see was the top of the digits there. So I wasn't sure if it was a 6 or a 5 or a 9. I had no idea because you can't see it. Yeah, I'm not using that in my defence, but it's poor. You know, when you've got a bike that isn't cheap, like these aren't, small details like that. So again, I believe you can buy aftermarket kits that tilt the speedo up more, and on the other Sportster models they're at a better angle this way. But the angle of the speedo and the fact that it steams up are just inexcusable. On the positive side, I will say about the instrumentation, how accurate the speedo and the clock and everything is. My Ducati Scrambler has a clock on it. I mean, I've never been a big fan of clocks on bikes, but they can be useful. The Ducati Scrambler, over a 6 month period, here in the UK, I change our clocks every 6 months for British summertime and wintertime. So that's when you set about changing them. But over that 6 months period, the Ducati Scrambler clock can gain 20 minutes. It's also very awkward to change the Ducati Scrambler clock, going through the menus and sorting it out. The Harley clock keeps perfect time when compared with my iPhone. And to change it from summertime to wintertime and back, using the menu and scrolling through an alternate, very easy. The other thing is, when you're going through these roadside speed indicators that you see in various areas, which tells you what speed you're going at and tells you whether you need to slow down, the speed it shows on the speedo is usually very close to the speed on the speed cameras. Ducati, that will be reading 10% faster than the speed camera says I'm going. So yeah, the instrument's very accurate. It's just so frustrating that you can't read it half of the time. Might as well not be there for how useful it is in that respect. So those are my main gripes. I suppose, just to summarise, I think I've owned the Harley 3.5, 4 years. In that time, I've done 4,500 miles on it. Mainly trouble-free miles, if I'm honest. The only real major issue I had was with the lambda sensor, as I said, which, yeah, we finally got to the bottom of it. Not a major issue really, but once we found what the fault was, I think it was to buy the genuine Harley crush washers that the lambda sensor needs wasn't a lot. I think it was £6-7, something like that each. I got two, although I think I only had to fit the one. So fairly easy fix. Yeah, we've gone through a range of modifications, which I've reviewed as I've done them. And each of the modifications did what I wanted it to, I suppose. You know, I changed the seat, it made it more comfortable. I changed the bars, it made it more comfortable. I changed the tank, it made it more usable. Obviously, changing the tank, I had to change the bars again. But the bike, the last time I rode it, it was a fairly comfortable ride. With the exception of, and this is the, if you want to get to the real reason why I'm selling the bike and moving on to something else, age is getting the better of me. And one of the problems I'm having these days is problems with my hip. My left hip is giving me some proper issues, some pains at times, making it so that it's waking me up in the night, whatever. Yeah, it's under investigation with the doctors at the moment. I've been for some x-rays and some tests and that. So we're hoping it's not arthritis. We're hoping it's something else that can be treated or dealt with. But doing any distance on the Harley, it starts to make my hip hurt. It's not the bike's fault really, although the seating position doesn't help, even though the modifications improved it. But I need a bike that's usable and a bike that I can do 100, 150 miles on in a single trip and not be in pain. My other issue is my back pain that I was getting, my shoulder pain that I was getting before I changed the bars. Yeah, I managed to sort that, but I can't, my hip problem I'm struggling with. The weight of the bike doesn't help. You know, usually it's your left leg you're putting down when you come to a stop. And there have been times when, not on the bike, but there have been times when my hips sort of given way. So I'm wanting something that's perhaps a little bit lighter, but more importantly, something with a riding position that's a little bit more neutral. Of all the bikes I own, if I'm being honest, the most comfortable bike for me to ride any distance as far as seating position is concerned is my old 1978 Triumph. So I'm looking for something that's got a similar riding position. If there's a fault with the Triumph, it's the seat. After you've done 60, 70 miles, yeah, it's not quite comfortable enough, but that's the same with a lot of bikes. But the actual ergonomics of the bike as far as handlebars, foot pegs, seat are concerned are a lot more comfortable than any of the other bikes I've got, including the Ducati Scrambler. So I'm looking for something with a seating position similar to the Triumphs, and that was the final, if you like, straw, or the final point that made the decision for me that it's time to move on. If I could justify keeping the Harley and getting another bike, I wouldn't be getting rid of it, but I haven't got the space, and I struggle with 4 bikes to justify having the time to ride them. Bikes need to be ridden. Sitting them in garages doesn't do them any good. So having the time to ride all of them the way that they need to be ridden is hard work. With 4 I can probably just about do it if the weather would pick up, but with 5 there'd always be something that wasn't getting ridden as much as it should be. So time for the girl to go. I'll miss her, but at least I've owned one and had fun on one. One of the things I always wanted from when I very first started riding bikes, always had a desire to own a Harley, ride a Harley. I've had one now, time to move on to the next one. So yeah, we'll leave it there, short and sweet, but hopefully anybody that's considering owning one, and I wouldn't talk anybody out of owning one, You've just got to own it, understanding some of its faults, and also you've got to understand what you want the bike to do for you, and then make your mind up as to whether this will do that. And moving forward, the sort of riding that I do 90% of the time, this is not the bike for it. My Ducati Scrambler is a better bike, but that has its limitations for doing distance. So I want something to complement my stable, if you like, that I'll do the distance, but I can have fun on back roads without having problems with my aging body complaining too much. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. As always, I am the Barnsley Biker. Please like, please subscribe. But until next one, I'll see you.